And 1. And wait, we don't got to do that.
Yeah.
Woo! Hey, everybody, welcome back to Screen Weens. We're in the same room.
Yeah, for the first time in like, what, 5 months?
Maybe not 5.
Maybe like more close to 4.
March, probably 4. Maybe 4. 4.5. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You. Thought you were going to show up with like an eye patch on and like a robo leg.
That would have been cool, but unfortunately I didn't lose my eye or my leg in the time since I last saw you.
Well, there's always time.
Yeah, maybe next time I see you.
Yeah, like another 4.5 months. Anyway, today's a big director deep dive. We're a week late because I was helping people move and had to drive to the airport 2 times.
We also had to watch Inland Empire, which is a really long movie.
And it feels even longer. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about David Lynch today. We've already covered 2 of his films on the podcast before. Yeah. Eraserhead, way back when, and Mulholland Drive, like 10 or so episodes ago, or 8. It wasn't that long ago.
I want to say like Mulholland Drive was like probably like 20 around there.
No, Mulholland Drive was recent.
It wasn't that recent.
It was recent. Let's see.
Because I remember thinking like, oh, 10. That's like the David Lynch gap right there. 10 episodes.
So it was 27.
Oh, okay. I guess I was off by like 7 episodes.
When did we do Eraserhead?
That was like
5, yeah. So I guess it has been a while. It's been half a year since we watched Mulholland Drive. What the fuck?
It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, we just watched that like 2 months ago.
Yeah. No, it goes by quick. Was Joe also on that episode, or?
No, Joe's only been on like 2 episodes. Because we wanted to do stuff and then jobs and just,
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about 5 more of his stuff. And then maybe eventually we'll finish off with Dune and Straight Story.
Well, I've got a good pairing for a Straight Story.
Okay, and then we'll just have to wait for Dune to come out so we can do a duo of Dune and David Lynch and Dune Denis Villeneuve.
I'm down for that.
Sounds good. And then we'll do one duo of Peter Cottontail and Rabbits.
Sure.
And Hop.
Oh man. It just dawned on me. We're probably not going to get Dune at the same time as everyone else.
Or we'll just fly over.
Oh, yeah. No, totally. That's a lot, right?
Drive down to Mexico.
Oh, man.
Off the board.
Why can't they put it on digital?
I don't know.
Fucking
Mulan is moving to digital. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's a weird, like, you have to pay $30 extra. But
I wouldn't pay $30 extra for that, but I would pay $30 extra for Dune.
But it's a big move. Like, that's kind of shocking.
Disney fucking setting the mark
like
down.
Onward was one thing because it was already released and then everything hit and stuff, so then they just moved. That wasn't that big of a deal. That made sense. But Mulan's been like their big thing, and their live action movies make so much money. So
Oh, but this isn't that groundbreaking. They put Lady and the Tramp live action on their streaming services.
Yeah, but that was like comparatively that was like their B movie.
Yeah. Oh man.
What have you been up to the last 2 weeks? We haven't really talked because I've been moving people and I watched a couple things, but not really any.
Yeah, I've been watching some anime. I was watching this one called Weens Saga.
Weens Saga?
Yeah, like G...
Like Screen Ween Saga?
No, it's Guin.
Okay. Doing.
Yeah, it's this like series of light fantasy light novels from like the 80s. It's like fantasy. Apparently it was one of the inspirations for Berserk.
Oh.
And it went on for a long time. It has like 130 volumes.
Okay.
Plus some more, but the original author died like a few years back. Sorry, my chair's squeaking if you hear that. It's just my fat
It'll
ball.
be fine.
But hold on, I got a burp.
I'd rather have occasional squeaking than like you can kind of hear an echo because this will be better.
Yeah. But yeah, they died. Apparently, like the first 100 volumes are like the main story, and everything after that's kind of like side stuff.
Okay.
But only the first 5 have been adapted into English.
Oh, the first 5 volumes?
Yeah.
Out of the 100 and something?
Yeah. So, I've been introduced to this series that I quite like the main character of. There's some stuff I do and don't like in the series, but yeah, I'll never get to read the rest of it unless I learn how to read Japanese. So.
Auto-translate.
Oh, yes.
It's just really bad.
For 130 books, just straight. It's like, all right, let me auto-translate all of this. But yeah, so I've been going through the anime for that, because in like 2009, it had like a 24-episode anime. Check it out if you want. It's pretty alright. I think that the series would have benefited from like having better direction and maybe kind of a different tone than the anime presents. But it's pretty good. I'm enjoying it so far.
Cool.
I've been playing a little bit of Dark Souls with Lucero.
First one?
We played a little bit of the first one and a little bit of the second one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like those games all right. I don't know. I don't think I've beaten any of them because I just fall off. Not that like I think they're too like challenging or anything. I don't know. They're just not super for me. I like their gameplay fine, but enough to play like a couple hours, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. But that's how I feel about a lot of video games. I'm just like, I'll play a couple hours, I'm like, and that was fun, and I'm good.
Yeah, I feel it. I kind of do the same thing. I'll play like the start of a lot of games, and I'll kind of like fall off once I feel like I've gotten the bigger picture of the like gameplay and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, I've been teaching myself a little bit of hiragana. I'm not, like, super far, but I've got about maybe, like, 20-something characters memorized. So
nice.
I'm on my way. Practicing a little bit every day. Maybe I will get to read Weens Saga.
Exactly. There you go. Speaking of things that were kind of popular in Japan for a while, but never really got an English adaptation, have you heard of, I think it's called Hello Hedgehog?
No.
Is
it Sonic related?
No, it's by this guy named Kenshi Hirokane. I know he did some other stuff, some more popular stuff that did get like more international stuff, but Hello Hedgehog. I think his most popular one was called Human Crossing. If you've ever heard of that, but I watched this OVA called Domain of Murder, which is a random. Like 40-minute OVA, or what is it? How long is it? 51-minute OVA based around this manga he did, which was a detective series pretty much. And it was like a random one that they adapted. But I really liked it. I thought it was like pretty great for like a random thing I found on YouTube. I'm like, this was really good.
Okay.
You should watch it. It's less than an hour. It's pretty gripping. It has some good storytelling and pretty good characters. I think the lead's a little generic, but which is weird because he had like 100-volume, manga, and I don't think I tried to look for it. I couldn't find it like anywhere, so I don't think it was ever like released in English.
Yeah, that happens. It's sad because it's like. With anime, you're generally going to find, unless it's like pretty old, you'll probably have an easy time finding the anime, but with manga, there's such like a deep well of manga that just go untranslated. And there's like tons of like niche and obscure series that do get translated, and it's like, really? Someone translated this? Thank you, I guess.
I also, the day Hinatea got here, because she moved back, I was like cleaning my room, so I watched The Karate Kid again while I rewatched that while I was cleaning.
The original?
The original, yeah. Because I haven't seen, I've seen the remake. Yeah. I've seen the original. I haven't seen 2 or 3 or the next Karate Kid. And I've seen Cobra Kai, which I really, really like Cobra Kai. It's my favorite thing out of all of those. Yeah. But I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the Karate Kid still. I'm like, it's really like goofy and it's just way over the top. Yeah. But I don't know. There's just something really like joyful about watching those types of movies. I'm like, this is good. This is good for what it is. Like,
yeah. It's been a good few years since I've watched any of the Karate Kid movies. I've thought about like going back and watching the original trilogy and then trying out Cobra Kai since that's like a YouTube Premium?
Yeah, it's switching over to Netflix. Netflix bought the because YouTube Premium's like not a thing anymore. Really? Like, they don't have...
like shows and
yeah, they don't have... They're like, this didn't work.
I pay for it.
Yeah, it's just... That's mostly just for ads and YouTube music or whatever.
But Smosh is going to keep making movies for it, right?
Ghostmates 2. It's coming.
Man.
The redemption. It's just, like, really good.
That'd be great.
We should do a revisit on Ghostmates.
Maybe not that. If I
Cobra
have to
Kai,
suffer through anything, it'd probably be like the first Smosh movie.
So I think Cobra Kai is coming to Netflix in like a month or so, and then season 3 will be through Netflix. Which I'm really excited because I do really think like there are problems in season 1 and 2, and I don't like all of the humor in it, but overall I think it's like pretty great.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what it's about, but it's...
I know it follows like the bully from
Johnny
the first
Lawrence,
one. He's got his own
and he like actually... Because I was actually surprised watching the first one how much like... There's a little bit of nuance to some of the bully characters, like, actually. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's not a ton, but there's
not
even just showing, like, hesitation or, like, anything. I didn't remember that at all. I'm like, that's nice. Yeah. I thought it was just really, really black and white, but there was a lot more nuance than I expected. Not a ton, but there was a lot more than I expected. But... Johnny Lawrence is a fantastic character in Cobra Kai. Pretty much all the characters in that I really enjoy.
Well, would you lose your shit if just like you're watching Cobra Kai and they're like, oh no, are they called dojos?
Yeah.
A new dojo.
I think, yeah.
New dojo opened up down the block and it's owned by Jaden Smith.
That'd be really funny. I also don't think that the remake's like... I think it's fine.
I remember it being okay.
Yeah. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember thinking it was decent. Like, not as good as the original, but, like, not a bad film. I thought it was fine.
Yeah. This is kind of how I remember it.
Yeah, and then I know you saw my review and liked it, but I watched Afterlife, which is by Hirokazu Koreeda.
He's the director of like Shoplifters.
Shoplifters, and I've been meaning to watch a ton of his movies. He might be one of our next director deep dives. I don't know. I've been meaning to, but I got recommended that in the Letterboxd Discord film raffle, and I don't know. I didn't feel... I really liked parts of it. It was really, really interesting at times, but, like, the leads I just couldn't get into, like, at all. So it made some of it fall really flat. I still ended up enjoying it, but I feel like it failed to live up to its own ideas. But I like a lot of the direction in it, even if I didn't like some of the writing. So I'm excited to see more of his directing. And I've heard Shoplifters. It's just fucking... amazing.
Yeah. That's the one of his that is on my watch list.
Yeah.
Afterlife was on my watch list too, but I didn't remember adding it. I was just like, I must have just clicked through
I have so many things on my watch list.
Yeah. I know. I do the same
I'm just like, let's see, how much is on my watch list? I have 3,017 movies on my watch list. I have watched 2,800 movies, so there's more things on my watch list than things I've seen.
Yeah, no. My fucking... I don't know what my watch list is. I don't add to it super often anymore. But I went through a period when I like first joined Letterboxd where I added a bunch of shit to it.
Yeah. Well, I was just... I mean, like, there was a time where anytime somebody, like, gave something a 5-star or, like, a 4.5 star that I followed, I'm like, I trust these people. And I'm like, wow, they really liked it that much? I'm going to add that to my watch list. Or I do the exact opposite where I'm like, wow, they really hated this movie. I want to see how bad it is.
I feel it. I've done stuff like that.
But, yeah. I saw you on Letterboxd. I was looking through your Letterboxd. I'm like, wow, Thomas is actually rating things that we've watched in the past.
Oh, yeah, I was doing that a little bit. But then I was like, oh, fuck, it's late and I gotta watch Inland Empire. So I had to stop partway through. I went through because I looked and I was like, I gave the first Madagascar. I know we didn't cover any of the Madagascar movies on here. And hopefully it'll stay that way. But...
For now.
For now. We'll get there when we do a Noah Baumbach deep dive.
That would only be the third one.
Yeah.
We're only looking at Noah Baumbach's writing credits.
Yes. Writer deep dive, not director deep. I'd be down for that twist at some point. But I gave like the first one a 4, and I could tell it was from like a period when I was like going through and rating movies I had seen based off my memory.
Yeah.
That was a rating
Which I did that for everything I've ever seen.
And I usually try not to do that, but sometimes I will.
Yeah.
And I went, and I was like, oh, okay. And I gave like Madagascar 204 because I'm like, whatever, I'm just guessing here. I vaguely remember it probably isn't much worse than the first one. And then I looked at my score for the third one. I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to give either of those 204. So I
what
just
did you give that one?
I think I gave it a 2 stars.
Okay. Or a 1 star?
Or a... Yeah, 1 star. It's a 2 out of 10 on my...
I don't know. I do think that specifically, I think Madagascar 2 is the best one. I think, like, in my opinion, just because I think the first one's so fucking boring. Like, there are parts I like, and I liked it as, like, a child.
Yeah.
But I was a child. I liked everything as a child.
I feel that.
It's like, movie! Oh! King Julian!
Yeah, no, I had a, like, stark realization this week as I was kind of watching through some bad horror movies for my horror movie weekly reviews.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was remembering just some of the shitty horror movies I used to watch on like FearNet growing up. And I was like, that's where all this fucking came from.
And now I'm doing that as an adult.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch a Puppet Master.
Oh man, the Puppet Master movies.
I still haven't watched them. And Blade's out now.
I know, I have to watch the fucking Blade movie. I have to watch that reboot that they did, The Littlest Reich or whatever. Oh man. I'm hoping the Blade movie's okay. I haven't seen any trailers. I'm guessing it's going to be
There's very few reviews, and the only reviews are from the people that are always at the top of the Puppet Master movies going, this is so good! I'm like, you're lying! You're a liar!
I'm going to have to watch it when I get home, and I'm going to have to give it a review that'll flip the letterbox on its ass. Funny puppet movie made me laugh.
I mean, it's by the director of the Killjoy 3, 4, and 5, which I thought 5 was just dreadful, but I think 3 and 4 are like much better.
I remember 3 pretty well. 4 is a blur. 4 and 5 blend together. I know 5 is Psycho Circus. What the fuck happened in 4?
That's the one he's being charged. He's like being sued.
I thought that was the 5th one. What's the 5th one about then?
5th one is
they're like in space. Is there like a scene where they're in space?
Yeah.
I've pushed to those movies.
I don't even remember the 3rd one very well.
The third one I remember pretty well. That's the one where they're like in the house and they like have the mirror. It's like the professor's house and like Killjoy's trying to bring him into his
I remember
realm.
that. I don't remember the 5th one like at all.
Yeah, the fifth
Psycho
one,
Circus.
like,
I do remember the 4th. Because I ended up liking the 4th one. I know you didn't, but like comparatively I thought I enjoyed it.
I think
it's one of the 7 full moon movies I have enjoyed.
I think it's the 5th one's the one with the fake clown.
The fake baddie boo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that has the stupid thing where it's like, oh, it's Killjoy. He's talking to the guy who he has the reality show. This is the one.
Yeah. Come watch the David Lynch episode where we talk about full moon.
David Lynch should make a Puppet Master movie.
He should.
He loves puppets.
He would probably do a good job at it. I don't know if he should make a Puppet Master movie or just make a killer puppet movie, but regardless, I'm down. David, do it.
David. Mr. David. Anyway, let's get into some questions from Pierre.
Okay.
Should have just had him walk in at this point.
You should have.
Hey, it's me. All right. Number 1. How willing are you to smash a bug or spider with just your hand? Does the size of the bug matter? Second part of that, of course the size of the bug matters. If it's like this big, if it's like a foot long, I'm not going to just smash it with my hand. But if it's like a little tiny thing, I'll smash it with my hand.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm like, you know, somewhere where there's not other things around me. Like if I was sitting here right now and there was a bug right there, I'd probably just smash it.
Yeah.
Instead of like standing up, going to get a paper towel because by the time I do that, it's probably gone.
I have a rule with books. They leave me alone. I tend to leave them alone. But in the situation in which one gets in my shit and fucks with me, I'll straight up smack that bitch with my hand. I don't care. I can wash my fucking hands. Now, the size, typically, I don't hesitate because I don't have any giant bugs where I live.
Yeah.
Yet.
Until ice spiders descend on you.
Oh, yes, it's coming. The permafrost has been melted and the ice spiders are coming. But if it's like a big spider or something, if it looks like if I were to hit it and its mouth could potentially bite me, then I might hesitate and go get something.
Like a shoe.
Yes.
Okay. Second question.
Okay.
What is your favorite character from the movie Cars? Specifically, I guess the first one, which is unfortunate because, like...
It's the only one I've seen.
I've seen all three, of course. And the third one I actually like. And if it was the third one, I might say Lightning McQueen because I think there's actually some interesting things about his character in the third. Or Cruz Ramirez is also pretty decent. But the first I just think is a dreadful movie. I'd say Guido, though.
Dane Cook.
Dane Cook is not in the first Cars.
He is now.
No.
Oh. The only characters I remember the, like, one car that had...
This one's Guido.
That's not the one I was thinking of.
Luigi?
It's like a... I don't know cars. I can't identify what kind of car he was. Like a kind of more classic-looking car. He's, like, kind of greenish, I think. He's like a mentorish figure.
He's blue.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's Doc Hudson. That one?
Yeah. I'm going to say him, but I haven't seen the movie.
Paul Newman played him.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I do like that. I like that even more now. What year did Cars come out?
2006. He died like 2 years later, and they try to, like, you know, kind of make an alter to his character in the other ones. Like,
yeah. So
he's probably the best part about the first Cars.
Yeah.
Besides Guido.
Oh, of course. So
and Mater.
Oh yeah, Tom Mater.
I mean, I feel like Mater's actually one of the better characters in Cars in general because I think he's one of the more genuine. Like, it feels like he's at least a character. Everyone else is just super nothing.
I get the same feeling of my insides dying when I think of Mater that I get when I think of, like, the Minions from the Despicable Me movies.
Well, so, like, really, really good.
Yeah, in a bad way.
We should have a Larry the Cable Guy director.
Actor.
We can watch Jingle All the Way 2. We can watch The Tooth Fairy 2.
Delta Farce.
We can watch Delta Farce. I haven't seen any of these.
I've seen Delta Farce. I saw it like once when I was like 11 or 12 or whenever. I watched it on demand.
Get her done.
Get her done.
Oh, and final question. From Pierre, of course. We don't have any other questions.
Okay.
What traditional fantasy adventurer would David Lynch be? Warrior, mage, rogue, etc.? I feel like I'm pretty confident that David Lynch would be like a wizard, like a mage.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
And he'd always cast illusion spells.
Yeah. He'd be it's like, what are you gonna do? There's a, like, Minotaur coming, David. And he's just like, I'm gonna spawn some red curtains over there and some flashing lights.
And behind the curtain will be a mirror. And it will be him, but he'll be dancing.
It will awaken a true existential horror within himself that he has never known before.
Anyway, let's talk about the David Lynch. You want to talk about him? The man? The myth? The legend? You know everything about him. He directed your favorite thing in the world.
He directed one of my favorite movies.
Yep. Wild at Heart.
I would probably... I don't know where that would, like, sit on, like, my overall scale.
That was my favorite for a while.
In a general, like, sort of speak, I'd probably be like, yeah, no, that movie was bomb.
That movie was bomb. I'm excited to talk about. That's the second time. That's one of the only ones that, or I think that's the only one I'd seen before in this list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I watched it for Nick Cage.
That's true.
And I'm like, that movie was sick.
All right. So, David Lynch was... Oh, that is not the right tag.
Born Jonathan Lynch. That's not true.
He, David Keith Lynch.
Yo, Key and Peele.
Yeah.
Keith and Peele.
Was born in Missoula, Montana in 1946 on January 20th.
Oh, he's so old.
He is. His father, Donald Walton Lynch.
Duck.
Donald Duck. I like how your mind went straight to Donald Duck. That's not the Donald mind brain, unfortunately.
I try to just not think about that Donald for the sake of the podcast, because I don't want me just yelling about how much I hate,
Ronald McDonald, how could you fucking do that to all those cows, you sick bastard. Anyway, let's see. His dad was like a research scientist for the Department of Agriculture. And he moved around a lot. Some areas that he lived in growing up were like Sandpoint, Idaho, Spokane, Washington. I think you pronounce this Durham, North Carolina, Boise, Idaho, Alexandria, Virginia.
Yeah, it is Durham. No, that's North Carolina?
Yeah.
That might be where my older sister lives.
Oh. Maybe she can find a David Lynch statue there.
I'm pretty sure that's where John Darnielle lives as well.
Oh, really?
Like, currently. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Or close to it at the very least.
But,
maybe he lives in Charlotte. I don't know.
Yeah. Even though he moved around a lot, he never really had a hard time making friends. He seemed like quite the character even back then.
Yeah.
Commenting on his early life.
It's a metaphor!
Oh, yes. He commented, I found the world completely and totally fantastic as a child. Of course, I had the usual fears, like going to school. For me, back then, school was a crime
David Lynch
against...
here?
Whoa, what?
Where's that voice coming?
For me, back then, school was a crime against young people. It destroyed the seeds of liberty. The teachers did not encourage knowledge or a positive attitude. I agree. But yeah, so basically he became a Boy Scout, basically so he could, quote, put it behind him, unquote. He became an Eagle Scout and was actually, like, presented with, or he was, like, at the inauguration of John F. Kennedy, which is pretty cool. I guess that was on his 15th birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then he went on to kill him.
Yes. We're not supposed to say that out loud.
Oh, fuck, you're right.
But, yeah, so he always had an interest in, like, painting and drawing. Let's see, he wasn't super great at school. He didn't really have much interest in schoolwork. He began studying at the Corcoran School of Arts and Design in Washington, D.C., and then he transferred to the School of Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, where he was roommates with musician Peter Wolf for a year. And then he left saying he was not inspired at all. What? What was that look?
He's in 20 episodes of the Cleveland Show.
Peter Wolf?
No, David Lynch.
Oh, yeah, no, he voices the bartender.
Gus the bartender.
Yeah, he's done stuff with Seth MacFarlane for quite a while.
Funny guy.
I want to say I know he does like a sketch on Family Guy at one point where it's like the Christmas sketch where the boy's like, David Lynch is like Santa Claus and he's like, all right, I want you to leave me cigarettes and black coffee. Can you do that? And the kid's like, oh yeah, I guess. And he's like, all right, now open up your present. And he gives it to him. It's like a finger. And the kid's like, oh, this is scaring me. He's like, it's supposed to. But, yeah, he wasn't inspired, so him and his friend Jack Fisk planned to move to Europe for a few years. But they got there, and then after a couple weeks, they were like, oh, no.
You're like, I hate Europe.
I think he just had a different idea.
Too many smelly people.
Yeah, I think he just had a different idea. The reason why they wanted to go to Europe was so that they could train with Austrian expressionist painter Oskar Kokoschka. I've never heard of this person before, so sorry if I'm butchering their name.
Wow. You're not like a Koshka head?
But I think they got there and quickly found out, oh yeah, we can't just go and work under this famous painter in Europe. So,
well, he should have just been like, I'm David Lynch.
Yeah.
Don't you know who I am?
I'm the guy who's gonna make Garden back one day. That was the original name for Eraserhead. Anyway.
Garden back?
Yes.
Oh, because the guy has a garden on his back.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, so they only spent like 2 weeks of their plan, 3 years there. But yeah, so he returned to Virginia. Then he moved to Walnut Creek, California, where he stayed with his friend Toby Keeler for a while.
Toby Maguire, yep.
That would have been cool. Oh, jeez. Let's see. He enrolled at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. And yeah, it was here where he began a relationship with Peggy Reevy. I think that's
Peggy Reevy, yeah! Woo!
They were married in 1967, and the following year she gave birth to their daughter Jennifer.
Jennifer Lynch.
Yes. Peggy stated that Lynch was definitely a reluctant father, but a very loving one, and that she was like pregnant when they got married. They moved to this neighborhood in Philadelphia that was like super cheap, because like it was a pretty like crime-ridden area.
Oh.
And later describing his time living there, Lynch stated that we lived cheap, but the city was full of fear. A kid shot to death down the street. We were robbed twice, had windows shot out, and a car stolen. The house was first broken into only 3 days after we moved in. The feeling was so close to extreme danger. The fear was so intense. There was violence, hate, and filth. But the biggest influence in my whole life was that city. So.
Real quick tangent.
Okay.
Jennifer Lynch made a movie in 1993 called Boxing Helena, and it was a complete commercial and critical failure, and she won a Golden Raspberry for Worst Director. So then she didn't make another movie for 15 years.
Oh, nice.
Apparently her other stuff is like decent. Yeah.
What's it called? I know he's got another son who's like in a band. The band plays in one of the Twin Peaks The Return episodes, but I can't remember the name of the band. And I know his daughter wrote, basically when, after like Twin Peaks came out, she wrote Laura Palmer's diary. Was basically like a thing you could buy to read along with the series or whatever. And one of the actors from Twin Peaks who did not return in the 25-year gap.
The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer.
Yeah. Basically, like, there's this character in the original one. He's a little guy. I can't remember the actor's real name. I want to say it's like something Anderson. But he plays a pretty iconic character in the original Twin Peaks series. But basically, he started, like, accusing David Lynch of, like, raping his daughter, and basically was like, Laura Palmer's diary is actually her diary, and they just like changed the names on it, and it was just like this mega conspiracy, and he just like completely went nuts and like turned against Lynch and started blasting him for shit like that.
Oh, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so when his character returned in the new series, they replaced him with a piece of gum on a stick.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it's not actually a piece of gum on a stick. That's just what it looks like. Anyway. So basically at Pennsylvania Academy, he made his first short film, which is called 6 Men Getting Sick 6 Times. Try saying that 6 times fast.
Good movie.
Haven't seen it.
I really like it.
But yeah, so let's see. He discussed the idea, it was like an animation, because he had this whole fascination. He's like, I want to make moving paintings.
Yep.
But let's see. Yeah, so eventually he just kind of like was making like short films for a while. He ended up making like The Alphabet, The Grandmother.
I've seen The Alphabet. I really, really like The Alphabet. I haven't seen The Grandmother yet. That's one of his longer ones. That's like more than half an hour.
I've seen part of The Grandmother. I haven't seen any of these like pre-Eraserhead shorts in full though. But yeah, so basically he started this script called Garden Back, and he ended up working on it for quite a few years, and that became Eraserhead, which blew up in the underground scene, along with like the same like scene that produced movies like Pink Flamingos and like Rocky Horror Picture Show, like basically like the underground cinema scene at the time. And from there, like one of Mel Brooks' guys had seen the movie Eraserhead, and he ended up getting the job on Elephant Man through that.
And I was shocked. Like, that movie, I think Eraserhead's fantastic. But, like, Elephant Man, just, like, seeing that as someone's second movie is so, like, shocking.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? But it's the same thing when I think about Bong Joon-ho. His second movie was Memories of Murder.
Yeah, it's like, god damn. Like, you're... Fuck. But yeah, so basically, I'm just gonna like kind of jot through this here at this point, because it's basically just like he went on to make this project.
Yeah, I mean,
and we're gonna
be talking about most of those movies too.
We're gonna kind of see the arc. There's a couple missing pieces through like Twin Peaks, but you can kind of fill in the gaps and figure out like, oh, his style changed around the point in which Twin Peaks popped up. But yeah, basically he was.
When was first season of Twin Peaks?
1991. It was being produced around the same time that Wild at Heart was. So basically, David Lynch only directed 6 episodes of the original series, but he was back and forth on set. But he was working on like Wild at Heart at the time.
Yeah.
And two of the actors from Twin Peaks are in that movie. There's more than the 2, but the 2 that I caught my eye is the actor for Laura Palmer and the actor for Audrey Horne.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically the good witch and the lady who gets in the car accident.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically he was on a ramp of success. He occasionally had his little like stumble, like Dune wasn't a film that he was like super happy with, and it kind of flopped, but he had signed on to do like 3 movies for that studio, and one of them was originally supposed to be the sequel to Dune, but that quickly got scrapped, so he made Blue Velvet instead. And I don't think he made another one for that studio. I think something happened on like one of his other projects, or maybe he just produced something for them, but I think that was all he directed for them before going on to make Wild at Heart. But yeah, so basically he had a line of success. I don't know how like Lost Highway or Wild at Heart performed successfully, but I know like Twin Peaks was a high for him, and then
I know Blue Velvet was high. I think Lost Highway was a little bit I
can imagine that was a bit of a slope. But then Mulholland Drive was like his next like big high point. Yeah. That was like everyone loved Mulholland Drive.
Inland Empire was another one that was like
Inland Empire kind of killed his career for
people were just like Mr. Lynch.
I think after that,
what's happening?
He was just like, I don't want to make movies anymore. This isn't it.
I'm gonna go.
It's my work.
I'm gonna go eat bagels.
Yeah, I'm gonna go just do paintings in my workshop for the next few years until 25 years for Twin Peaks are up. At the end of Twin Peaks, they say like, "Oh, I'll see you in 25 years."
And they say it again at the end of The Return.
No,
he's going to be like 90 years old.
The Return is sadly probably the end. There's been like...
Didn't he just have an interview like a couple weeks ago being like, I'm working on something?
He's working on something, but whether it's Twin Peaks is to be determined. I don't want to get my hopes up, but...
Maybe he's finally making a Wild at Heart 2.
That'd be cool.
I would love to see him team up with Cage again.
Yeah. Like, I'd honestly be down whether it's just another season of Twin Peaks or whether it's just another movie. I'm always down.
Inland Empire 2.
Not that.
This time it's 6 hours.
Oh, man. That would be rough.
But he's in a monkey suit.
That would be a little less rough.
What's the photo for?
Man. I would like to see David Lynch work with him again. I think the two of them work together.
What, Justin Theroux? Or?
Yeah.
Well, he was in
Empire. But
kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like he was just kind of static.
Yeah,
like just statically there. I feel like everyone but Laura Dern was kind of just like pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how that movie had a couple like cameos from pretty big celebrities, but they're only in like one part.
Yeah, like
William H. Macy.
Yeah.
That was Terry Crews at the end, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I just finished that movie and I've already forgotten most.
I want to look that up and make sure I'm not just getting them mixed up. But let me see.
Yep, it was.
Okay.
He was street person number 3.
Yeah, he was the guy next to the one homeless person who was talking about her cousin with the hole in her vagina wall.
Anyway, let's, speaking of vagina walls, let's talk about giving birth, specifically to someone who would be harassed for the rest of his life about it. Cool, let's talk about the Elephant Man.
Yeah. My man.
Incredible.
Am I an elephant?
This is an amazing movie.
Yeah, no,
this was fucking shocking how much I liked it. And I've been recommended this movie since like halfway through high school, and I'm so fucking mad at myself for like taking this long.
Yeah.
Because this was just like shockingly good.
I think it's the perfect balance of like grounded Lynch, but he still finds a way to insert his little isms into the movie. Like there are still scenes you can pull out and be like, this is a David Lynch scene. Like there's a scene in the hospital where it's like 2 old ladies are just like fighting each other and they both got like bloody faces and are screaming bloody.
Well, and he still has he has dream sequences in the movie that are very honestly reminiscent of parts of Inland Empire, actually.
Yeah.
The Inland Empire, I feel like, jumping ahead, it has so many parts that I'm just like, it honestly sometimes feels like David Lynch is making fun of himself. Because he could be.
The imagery at the end of the movie when it's like his mother's picture and like that orb in space.
Yeah.
There is like imagery exactly like that in Twin Peaks: The Return. The
ending parts of the Elephant Man are super, super reminiscent, at least for me. It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm.
I feel like he wanted to make the opposite of that.
I feel.
And he's a really big fan of that movie. There's that video of him like crying at the end of that movie. So I feel like there's a lot of parallels to that. Like the whole time I was watching, I'm like, this is interesting.
I'm curious. I've never looked this up. I wonder why they decided to go with John instead of Joseph.
Apparently he was like, that was a nickname for him. Like,
oh, okay.
Which is weird. I'm like, what? But that I know people with weird, but apparently he was called John every once in a while.
Okay.
So this tells the true story of John Merrick, who was this guy with I don't even know if they have a like.
I don't think they name it in the movie. I think it's
and I know that like because it was so long ago, they're not entirely sure if it was exactly like one thing. They just have theories.
Yeah.
But he had a deformity where he
had a bunch of tumors.
He had a bunch of tumors all over his face and head and like a ton on his back to the point where and his right arm was so like tumor filled that he couldn't even like use it. It was just kind of like a stump.
He can't like lay down at night. He has to like sleep sitting up, or else his head's
it's like he's
heavy.
Like slightly leaned back, but with pillows everywhere to keep him like afloat, pretty much.
Oh, man. This poor guy.
And this was taking place in was it 1812 or like it was early 1800s or something like that?
I want to say it's like late. It's he was born 1862 and died 1890. So the film takes place like 1890, 1888.
Well, I think the film actually, I don't know if the film wants to do the whole part, but he is 21 at the beginning of the movie. I don't know if it's supposed to take place over 7 years or if they just changed his age for it. I'm sure it's still a movie, so they take liberties. So here's a quick rundown for the movie and his life. He's ridiculed his entire life. He's at a freak show. A doctor, Dr. Treves or something like that, played by Anthony Hopkins. He's pretty sexy in this movie. He shows up, Treves. Yeah. He shows up and he pretty much wants to see him. They meet. He takes him to a hospital. He treats him kindly. When he eventually does go back, is pretty much his owner because he doesn't have anything to do. He's pretty much a slave to this guy. He beats him to the point where
this guy doesn't
John almost
legally
dies.
Own him, but as far as John is concerned, this guy is his owner. He'll do whatever he says.
Yeah.
And
because if not, he'll die pretty much.
Because this guy will lash out and beat him to death. As a matter
even
of fact,
without that, he can't make his way in the world without it. Yeah. But Treves recovers him, and he pretty much lives most of the rest of his life in this hospital. And there is a part where eventually a big thing happens. He's ridiculed again by people, and he goes back with the freak show guy. But eventually he'll return to the hospital where he'll remain and then eventually kill himself by wanting to. It's pretty obvious throughout the whole film because he's said it multiple times. I wonder what it's like to sleep like a normal person. That's how he eventually dies. Yeah. And that's one of the things that technically they take artistic liberties with because there's it wasn't necessarily ruled a suicide. Treves specifically was reading this made me really sad because Treves was I think he was just trying to experiment to see what it was like, and I'm well, yeah, but I'm pretty sure he wanted to die. But I think Treves, the real guy, was so in denial of losing pretty much his best friend. Yeah. There's a lot of really, really. I cried a lot in this movie, many times.
It's probably his saddest movie for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. Because it's just so heartbreaking, the entire time. But then it's also really uplifting at certain times. Treves is really kind to him. And there's some really interesting things with Treves because he's throughout the entire movie, he's questioning his motives because he's I know I'm doing this kind thing for him, but am I doing it because I'm a good person or because I'm a bad person? I really like that bit of dialogue. Yeah,
because I think anybody who does a good thing, they're going to have to ask themselves that question at some point.
But if you are, I know I talked to Hinate about this, if you're the type of person that would ask yourself that, you're most likely the good person, because bad people wouldn't ask themselves that.
The only thing that makes me hesitant for thinking, I don't know about real life, but in terms of how the movie presents it, the only thing that keeps me hesitant to thinking maybe he doubted himself because he knows the thoughts he had. Because the thing that gets me is the fact that he doesn't respond. Clearly I think he does think of John as a friend, but there's that bit where John will keep my friend at the end of his statements. And when it comes to his final night, he does it one more time. Thank you, my friend. Good night, my friend. And Treves doesn't reciprocate that. He doesn't respond you too, my friend.
And I think there's the illusions that David Lynch wants to make it up to the interpretation, whether Treves was a good person in real life or not. But I do think in the movie it's presented that he is a good person and he's just more he doesn't show affection as much. But there's the scene where John Merrick comes back and he immediately goes up and hugs him. And I'm oh my god! Pretty much one of the final scenes of the movie before John Merrick kills himself is. Earlier on in the film, he had seen this woman. She's a semi-famous actress. Yeah. She's working in the theater, and they talk about how much he loves the idea of the theater. And he hasn't ever read anything besides the Bible. And she gives him Romeo and Juliet, and they recite something. And then she's you're no elephant man. And he immediately, in like a broken voice, he's like, I'm not. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you're my Romeo or something like that.
Yeah.
And then gives him a kiss on the cheek and like, oh.
Yeah.
But then later on, she invites him out to this. He gets all dressed up in a suit and they go. And she's like, I, along with everyone here, wants to... I'm getting like emotional thinking about this movie. I want to dedicate this to my dear friend, John. And they're like, everyone in the audience is clapping for him. And they stand up and they're giving him a standing ovation. And it's kind of over the top, like it is. But it's like, it's deserved.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And especially at that point, I'm like, the next scene is going to kill himself, I can tell. Because he's just kind of, and at that point, it's not even like a sad suicide. He's just like, I did what I wanted to do in my life. Like, this has been the best times ever, pretty much for me.
Basically, I think he kind of comes to the realization that
it can't get better than this for him, kind of thing.
That it, maybe not even that it couldn't get better, but that it can easily get a lot worse. Yeah. He still sees that
people, the vast majority of people don't treat him with human decency.
And how easy it was for him to get like kidnapped by his old like the guy who runs the freak show. Like he literally just comes and is really able to like just easily get his hands on him and take him back.
Yeah.
And escort him like overseas and to a place where he can live like that. And it's just like, you know, no matter.
But also, he finished his cathedral that he was building as well.
That too, yeah. I feel like that was more of like a symbolic thing,
yeah.
But like, I mean, just think like, yeah, they caught the one night security guard, whatever he is, the dude who kept letting people in, and
but there isn't. Even though he was in this hospital and was supposed to be getting the support, he wasn't getting enough support, obviously. So
I don't know how real the like guy who would let people in was, but like the whole movie, I'm like, John, just tell somebody, please. Be like, hey, there's a man that comes into my room.
I don't know if like I think it was trying to allude to the fact that he didn't.
He probably
didn't know.
Wrong with it.
Well, I think he might have not known if it was real or not, because he has so many nightmares throughout the film, and this feels so much like his nightmare, just like the manifestation of his past, because it's like the exact same thing. But also, he might not. Besides, like the very last night, he might not have seen anything necessarily different than how Treves he was letting like the rich folk in as well.
Yeah.
But no, there's some really compelling like character arcs in this movie. Treves is really interesting, but even the smaller stuff between like the handmaidens and like the nurses and stuff.
No, I really like that because there's the one younger one who initially is just like
freaked out and like, oh, he's ugly.
But as the film goes on, you know, as she grows kind of used to his appearance, she becomes much nicer to him. And there's like the kind of grumpy one who's like, oh, he doesn't belong here at first.
Yeah, the older one.
Yeah, but she's the one who pulls Treves aside at the end of the movie. He's like, hey, are you really doing, like, is this what's best for him?
Yeah.
And is looking out for him. He's like, oh, you didn't care. She's like, oh, if you call fucking, like, doing all, feeding him, taking care of him, cleaning the sheets, all this, if you don't consider that caring, then what the fuck?
There's another scene I forgot about when Treves takes John to his house to meet his wife.
And she starts crying. It was like just too sad.
Well, first he starts crying because she's nice to him. And he's like, I've just never had a beautiful woman be so nice to me. I was like, Jesus Christ. He cries in like every other scene. I was like, oh,
every person on r/incels. Is that even still a thing? Probably not.
That got banned a long time ago, but they've just migrated to other ones. You know, they just remake one. But yeah, no, this movie's really, really depressing, but also uplifting at times, but mostly depressing.
Yeah.
But it's really, really good. And the famous scene, the only one I'd seen before, where he's...
I'm a man!
I am not an elephant! I am a human being! Jeez, John Hurt in this is so fucking good.
I know.
You know what else he's good in? Snowpiercer.
He's good in.
John Hurt in general. It's really. Remember when he was in Doctor Who?
I do remember. He's the war doctor. That's like right where I stopped watching, pretty much.
It was a pretty good movie. The special thing.
Yeah. No, I watched a little bit after that. It was just around that era, like the end of Moffat's era. I was super burnt out. I'm like, I don't care.
I watched a bit into. I think I watched the first 7 episodes with Capaldi, but then I was just like, I'm dead now.
I
think Capaldi's a really good doctor. I just think the writing for the series was really bad. At that point.
Yeah, I agree. I saw the first episode with Capaldi, and I was like, okay, I like his dynamic. I like that he's kind of
I think that he's
But
so I just like Capaldi. I like him in Paddington.
I like him in World War Z, where he also played Doctor Who. I remember that was like the big meme when he got announced. Everyone was like, oh my god, he played Doctor Who World War Z. How could we not see this coming?
But yeah, the Elephant Man, spoiler alert, was my favorite of the 5.
We've already said he dies. How much more?
Spoiler alert for the 5 movies. This was my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah, no, this is my favorite. This has always been like my second favorite David Lynch movie. This
is also, from what I've seen, this is my second favorite as well.
And in certain regards, I think it's better than Eraserhead, but I think I get just a little bit more of like a fun experience watching Eraserhead because it's A, not as depressing.
Not nearly as depressing.
And B, there's a lot of fun stuff to like interpret with that movie. But it's a great movie.
I personally like it more than Eraserhead. I think Eraserhead's like number 4 for his features for me or somewhere around there.
I got it.
But I do really, really enjoy this movie.
Oh, fuck. Hold on. Now that it's at the forefront of my mind, let me fucking try to come up with your ranking now.
I already told you the top one.
I know. Now that you've told me the top one.
Well, I also know the top one.
So, okay.
Okay, hold on.
So okay. Just excluding Elephant Man.
I think we're actually gonna. I honestly think that we're gonna have the exact same one today. Maybe.
I could see maybe 2 of them being switched around, but I could see them being generally pretty close.
But I would give this one a 10.
I usually give this a 9, but I think I'm gonna bump it up to a 10. I think it deserves it.
John hurt my feelings. All right. So next up, we are talking about is it Blue Velvet? Yeah, because it was this, then Dune, and then Blue Velvet. He's like, I'm going back to my roots.
Yeah,
of being a funky chicken. This was really fun. This was a fun one.
Yeah, this is kind of like. I mean, everything David Lynch does is the prototype for Twin Peaks, but this one really feels like...
Yeah, and this introduces so many of his, constants.
Yeah, it's got,
it has the red curtains.
It's got Kyle MacLachlan in a detective leading role. It's got an over-the-top villain. David Lynch, I could call his shit dumb because it's very self-aware, and sometimes he does dumb shit in his movies, but it's usually
it's dumb in a good way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's at certain moments, not the movie itself. It's just it has dumb moments that I really enjoy.
That's all of David Lynch's work, except for Elephant Man.
That
movie, I think he was like, I can't put any dumb movie moments in this. I didn't write the script.
And then, of course, right after this one, he made his wackiest, dumbest movie, in my opinion.
Dune?
No, right after this. Wild at Heart.
Oh, wow.
I think that is the goofiest shit. Actually, maybe Inland Empire, but that's
yeah, but that's not fun goofy. That's
what the fuck's going on, David Lynch?
Yeah. So Blue Velvet, to give the basic rundown, it's the main character, Kyle MacLachlan. I can't remember his character's name. Is
it John? No, it's Jeffrey. Jeffrey Beaumont.
Yeah, so Jeffrey, his dad's sick in the hospital. The opening scene begins with his dad fucking having a stroke on the ground while watering the grass. And basically he comes back to town from college, and while on his way back from visiting his father, he is walking through this field and he finds this
He finds an ear.
And he's just like, oh, fuck. So he picks it up, puts it in a little bag, and takes it to the cops.
And it's just
I found this ear. Yeah. And he's like, that's an ear. Okay.
And then the rest of the movie is just him The detective obviously is like, okay, we'll look into it. Don't do anything because you're like 20. I think he's supposed to be like 21 or 22 in the movie.
And then Laura Dern, who is
18.
The detective's daughter.
Yeah.
She basically kind of like gives him a scoop. She's like, I hear some things. He's like, basically tells him about this woman who lives in these apartments that they were staking out. Oh, got a little bit of gas there.
You dying?
Hopefully. So basically he tells her, or she tells him, she's like, oh yeah, there's this woman who lives in this apartment. I'll show you the apartment, and basically like gives her name. And basically they kind of like just slowly start trying to figure out what's going on. They figure out that this woman has had her son and husband kidnapped by this gangster named Frank, who is played by Dennis Hopper. And is this our first Dennis Hopper movie? I think this is the first thing we've seen with him on it for the podcast. This isn't a bad one to start with. This might be peak Hopper.
I've like barely seen Dennis Hopper movies in general. I think I've seen 3 outside of this, which would be Waterworld, Rumblefish, and Red Rock West, which is a great unknown Nick Cage movie.
Huh. You seen Super Mario Brothers?
I saw it like as a kid, so I don't really count it as seeing because I don't remember anything about it except that Mario.
Yeah, he plays the main villain in that. But he's
Luigi.
Yeah, that's John Leguizamo. But yeah, he's usually pretty over the top and fun to watch. But yeah, so basically, the whole movie is basically just Jeffrey
trying to figure it out himself.
And he kind of gets in too deep and has to...
He, like, immediately gets into it. Like, literally immediately. Yeah. He just can't see it at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, he basically just finds himself in the middle of the situation and kind of just...
Eventually almost dies.
Yeah. The movie ends with him basically uncovering, like a corrupt...
drug traffic. It's like everything. It's like a crime syndicate, pretty much, run by...
There's
what's the bad guy's name?
Frank.
Is it Frank? Frank, yeah.
Basically, like, one of the, like, higher-up cops is, like, in on it, and...
Man in Yellow? Is that what they call him?
Yeah, I think that's what they call him. And then there's the well-dressed man who turns out just to be, spoiler, Frank, in a disguise. But yeah, he ends up, like, finally just getting to a point where he enters her apartment, and the man in yellow is just there. Some shit's already gone down. He's got a fucking hole in his head. You can see his brain sticking out, and he's just like standing there. And
he's like kind of his like nervous system is still there pretty much, but like not his brain.
But yeah, so he ends up like stealing that guy's gun, hiding in the closet, and he blows.
That was a pretty that was a cool climax. Like that was pretty straightforward. Like that I could see in like an actual like action movie. Like that was pretty good.
Yeah. No, I really like the climax of this movie. But
I really like this movie in general. I thought it was really... You'd seen this one before, right?
Yeah.
I thought this was pretty great. I think the Dennis Hopper as Frank is fantastic. Really fun.
Fuck anything that moves!
But I mostly like that this movie's... and David Lynch does this quite a bit. He'll just... It's like this weird... idealistic like neighborhood. He's like la 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 la. Like even the beginning is like there's a guy on a fire engine going hi, and everything's like really really happy. And even like the first bit, like it's obvious bad shit's going down. It's the same thing with Mulholland Drive though. That's like I feel like every movie of his is kind of similar. Bad shit is going down, but he doesn't like. He's still, like, in it because it's fun. It's, like, jovial for him. The characters aren't really pressed about the situation.
I think it was for Lost Highway, but David Foster Wallace actually, like, kind of, like, shadowed David Lynch for the making of one of his movies and wrote about his process. And that, he basically came up with Lynchian, where he gave, like, an actual definition. Which I don't remember it verbatim, but it basically equates to like, the dark underbelly of a bright kind of like social society. Like the perfect shot that I can think of to describe it is like, you see this bright, cheery neighborhood, and then you get this zoom in of like the gross bugs that are crawling around in the grass and shit like that.
That's a great shot. I really like that shot. There's a lot of really good cinematography in this movie. Like, a lot of really fun shots that really help that tone, that idealistic, really happy-go-lucky tone at the beginning. And then as it shifts, that's when the darker colors appear. That's when the curtains start appearing. It's really nice. It's a very nice visual storytelling element.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end, once, they finally find themselves outside of that situation, we have that dream that Laura Dern's character describes with like all the robins and how they like basically fill the sky with their love, and at the end we see the robin like sitting on the windowsill with a bug in its mouth, kind of signifying that it's like evil. All the bugs are still out there, but in terms of like this story,
evil has been defeated, kind of thing. Which is nice. It's a nice ending for a Lynch film, actually.
I know. You never know what you're going to get.
Apparently, like this, Lynch. People have described this in Wild at Heart in the same way because of the like similar like happy endings, kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, because most of the time I'm used to brutal fucking murder.
Yeah, or like just like, oh, what's that? I know
what the fuck just happened. But I was kind of pleasantly surprised the first time I saw this, and with Wild at Heart, since we already said that one's got kind of a happier ending.
He changed I guess we'll talk about it in a second, but he actually changed the ending for Wild at Heart. From
okay.
That's one of the ending. It was pretty dark, apparently, and he was like, nope. He pretty much was like, nope, doesn't fit.
Because the whole movie, I'm like, man, like, these characters don't deserve to get fucking whacked.
I do want to talk about Wild Heart. Let's finish up this, though. No, I really enjoyed this movie. This was the first one I watched out of all of them. Because I don't know why. I was like, this will probably be the easiest watch, I think. And I think it is. There's some obvious, like, illusions, but there's nothing, like, crazy. It's a pretty, like, light watch. So is Wild at Heart, I would say.
Wild at Heart, you can tell it kind of he started fleshing out some of his like Lynchian qualities,
and he's pretty zany in that movie. I don't know if that's Wild at Heart. I can also see why some people would not like it because it's very weird.
The scene, like as soon as like the mom in that movie started smearing lipstick on her face, I was like, oh yeah, I'm watching a David Lynch movie.
But Blue Velvet, good movie.
Yeah,
one of my, I would put it. Pretty good.
Yeah. It's kind of how I sit on it.
I would give it an 8.
That is also what I give it. So,
all right. So let's talk about Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
This is really high up on my Nick Cage list.
I can see why.
Let me see what number it is. It's pretty high up.
I was watching this and I was like, oh fuck, I gotta watch that Las Vegas movie that I still haven't seen.
Yeah. It's number 5. Right below Adaptation, Leaving Las Vegas, Into the Spider-Verse, and Matchstick Men.
Okay.
Which is funny because like everything, 3 of those 5, like everyone, Matchstick Men's made by fucking Ridley Scott, Adaptation's Spike Jonze, Wild at Heart's David Lynch, and then Mike Figgis is the guy who made Leaving Las Vegas, and he's made other movies, but like none of them have like done very well, like critically.
Did he write the script for that movie, or was that like he was directing someone else's script?
He co-wrote it with a guy named John O'Brien, who hasn't written anything else, or maybe it's based on a book. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Anyway, I think that it's either you're gonna not like that movie or you're gonna really like that movie.
Okay. Oh man. I'm gonna get some water real quick.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. It's based on a semi-autobiographical novel. All right, so Wild at Heart is a road trip fantasy film, pretty much. Yeah. Willem Dafoe's in this.
He is.
He's really creepy, but he's also fantastic to watch him.
Like, I don't know if I've like heard this around, but like the second I saw his name in the credits, I was like, he's gonna play a hitman in this movie.
Yo, the door's opening.
Oh.
Who is it?
Well, it's Tina's here.
Okay. Why are you opening the door like that, you weirdo? Yes, we're doing the podcast, but that's okay. That's just a fun little spoiler alert. Anyway, we're talking about Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Tina Say watched this with me the first time.
Ooh.
Not this time, though. But yeah, it's so... What were you saying, though? You hadn't heard this around, or...
Oh, I don't know if I had, like, heard it before, like, if maybe, like, you or one of my other friends who had seen the movie had told me about it before, but, like, the second I saw his name on the credits, I was like, he's gonna play a hitman in this movie. I don't... Because he plays hitman in other movies.
He plays a hitman a lot.
Yeah, so...
I think it's just because he has a interesting face, and when characters aren't, like, on screen all the time, like, when they're not the central character, I feel like you want more interesting faces so they leave a lasting impression, even if they're not super active the whole movie.
He definitely leaves an impression in this movie.
He does.
Oh, man.
So, Nick Cage plays this guy, Sailor.
Yeah.
Sailor, yeah.
Sailor and Lula.
Sailor is in love with Lola? Layla? What is it?
Isn't it Lula?
Lula? Yeah, it's Lula. Lola. Lila. Lula. Lilo and Stitch.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Lula. They're in love. Beginning of the movie, a guy tries to kill him in the middle of a hotel or something like that.
And he
goes crazy. Nick Cage is like, yeah, you want to go? And I'm immediately, the first time I was watching it, I'm immediately like, I'm going to like this movie. Because Nick Cage is immediately like, oh yeah, tough guy.
Yeah, he's a very, like, kind of like, almost like Elvis Presley-esque kind of personality.
No, he's definitely. I feel like a lot of the characters in this are supposed to kind of embody a lot of North American, like, legends or something. You know, they're like big people throughout. Or even like, that's why the allusions to Wizard of Oz are so present. Because I feel like this movie in general is supposed to encapsulate what American, like, the last 150 years of American folklore have really embodied.
I also like that they used Wizard of Oz. I don't know if this was, like, necessarily intentional, but, you know, they're referring to, like, their journey throughout the movie as, like, the yellow brick road. We're on our own, like, Wizard of Oz, and it's, like, super bright and idealistic, but as they go along, it's crappy. And obviously, behind the scenes, the Wizard of Oz are pretty well known at this point for being pretty shitty. So I wonder if that was, like, an intentional decision or if that was just, like, coincidence.
Yeah.
But I could see it being perhaps intentional.
Knowing Mr. Lynch, it probably was, I think. But so pretty much he goes to jail for, I think, a year or maybe a year and a half, something like that. Close to 2 years because she's 20 when he gets out. Mm-hmm. And she was 18 previously, I believe. Which she was in 4 years earlier as well. But then they decide to break his parole and go across the country and just travel and be in love kind of thing. Mm. And her mother, who is crazy, who it's revealed that she had hired that first guy in the first place to kill him.
I had gotten that impression.
Well, yeah.
She comes up or the dude comes up to assassinate him. He's like, I heard that you were trying to hit on Mama in the bathroom.
You were trying to fuck Lula's mother.
And then after he, kicks his fucking brains and he just points at her. But
she's like, no, we gotta stop them. And she goes up to, she's currently at the time dating Harry Dean Stanton. Mm-hmm. Who his character in this reminds me a lot of his character in Paris, Texas. Like the first part of Paris, Texas, where he's just kind of like, what's going on? What's happening? But so he's like, I'll go find them, but then she still contacts pretty much her ex-lover. Like, not even her ex-lover. She's still pretty much fucking him.
Because she's basically like, all right, Harry Dean Stanton's character, whose name I can't remember, if you fuck this up, I'm going to go to Santos, and he's going to just put a hit on Sailor.
Johnny Farragut.
Yeah, Johnny Farragut. And he's like, no, why would you want to do that? No, you'll regret that. Let me go find him. I'll help you do the right thing. But she goes to Santos anyway, and Santos ends up being like, all right, I'll do it, but only if you allow me to kill Johnny too. And she's not down with that. She's like, no, you can kill my daughter's boyfriend, but if you kill my boyfriend who I've been cheating on with you, no. I realized that wasn't coherent.
Yeah, I'm just like, what?
That happens sometimes with me.
That's okay.
All that matters is that I know what I was
All that matters is that most of the movie is just them going across the road trip, meeting different people. Nick Cage pretty much fighting people. Yeah. He fights it. He beats up a guy in the middle of a nightclub who had hit on her or something. He's like some hey amigo,
grinding against Lula, and
he's like, hey compadre.
Yeah, he just literally points up and the music stops, and he's like, I hate to do this.
It's the same thing with that idyllic setting because it's working out. Even at the beginning, he goes to jail, but after that, everything seems to be working out for him for a bit. He points up. It feels like a fantasy at that point. He points up to the ceiling. The music stops. Everyone's just like,
and he
gives him his attention.
He makes fun of his rattlesnake jacket, in which he gives the.
And he's said multiple times throughout the movie, he's like, this jacket represents my individuality and personal freedom.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're going for the libertarian don't tread on me kind of thing with that, or what. I
mean, maybe because it is snake skin.
Yeah, but that's kind of what made me think that. But I don't think that his character didn't. I mean, I guess he kind of seemed libertarianish. I mean, he did care about his own personal freedom, but not in the way of
care about personal freedom without being dumb. God.
Yeah, I don't think he was like, oh man, I don't think there should be any government. I mean, I'm sure he probably has that mindset, but the movie doesn't get into that. Anyway,
So he beats up the guy, and then he sings her a song, and she's like, why didn't you sing me Love Me Tender? And he's like, I only do that to the woman I'm going to marry, or the woman I'm married to, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm only going to sing that to my wife, insinuating that, until she is his wife.
And he's not going to sing. He's a good singer.
He is.
He's a good singer. And specifically, Elvis, the Elvis tone, he nails pretty well. I don't know if you watched the Peggy Sue clip.
I did. Remember, I was
Jim
Carrey.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty good in that, too. That movie's pretty good, too. I remember enjoying that movie quite a bit. Gonna have to... It's so funny when you think about the Francis Ford Coppola movies I've seen. I'm like, yeah, I've seen, Peggy Sue Got Married, and, Rumblefish, and there's somebody shooting fireworks outside, and it's August 9th.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck?
It's been happening every day. Since, July 4th, it's just, every day or two. People just...
Hopefully they stop.
It's just, one, usually. I'm like, what?
Because it gets pretty dry around here in the summer.
That's true.
Washington's
good news, it hasn't been nearly as hot. I was really worried about you coming over. I'm like, it's gonna be so hot. We can't have a fan, but it's been pretty cool this week.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't too hot.
Yeah. What was I saying? So
you were talking about Francis Ford Coppola movies.
I've seen just Peggy. So I haven't seen The Godfather, or any of his big or Apocalypse Now or whatever.
I haven't seen Apocalypse Now either.
One day.
I have the 4K set they released that has the 5 different versions on it.
Yeah, 5 or 7 or whatever.
Yeah, but
I'll get around to it eventually.
I also have the Blu-ray set for Blade Runner.
I could watch that, or I could watch Puppet Master. So it's real toss up.
Yeah, you win either way, I guess.
So yeah, they go through this just road trip. Eventually, they do get to this pretty much an RV park.
Yeah, it's called Tuna.
Tuna.
Isn't that the name of the town?
Something like that.
Texas?
Something like that. They meet a bunch of people, and then they also meet Willem Dafoe, who plays... what was his name?
It's
Bobby?
Yeah, it's Bobby something.
Bobby Peru. Yeah. And he's just like the place. And he's really creepy right at the beginning. Right from the beginning, he's really creepy, but eventually he...
becomes creepier.
Yeah, he becomes creepier. Harry Dean Stanton is killed.
Yeah, he gets whacked pretty early on.
By the lady who... That woman's the one in Blue Velvet.
Oh, yeah, she plays... she is Sarah Palmer in Twin Peaks. She plays Laura Palmer, the main girl who gets murdered, her mom.
Okay.
And she's in Inland Empire too. She plays the woman who comes by, the neighbor, who's like...
Oh, yeah.
Fucking murder!
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, jeez. Yeah, she's a David Lynch regular.
Yeah. Kyle MacLachlan, her. Laura Dern, definitely.
Jack Nance when he was alive.
Yeah. Because he was also in... Was he in this? No, he was in Lost Highway.
I think he was in... he was in Blue Velvet for a scene. He plays one of Frank's guys.
So does
he was in Lost Highway.
Brad Dourif.
Yeah, Brad Dourif.
Yeah, and I immediately recognized him. I'm like, hey, that's Brad.
Yeah.
There he is. Hey, Brad.
He played. Yeah,
he is in Lost Highway.
When the sax is playing on the radio.
He's in the remake of The Blob.
Oh, was he? I haven't seen the remake of The Blob since I was.
He's in Ghoulies.
He was in Ghoulies. That's right. I remember seeing that and being like, oh, thank God, one silver fucking lining to this terrible ass movie that has a great sequel. Ghoulies 2. Ghoulies 3
go to college.
Isn't too bad.
That's the one where they go to the med school, right?
Yeah, and they all talk in that one.
Hi-ho! Hi-ho!
They have goofy voices like that. It's pretty bad. But
we should make a Ghoulies movie.
I think the lead in Ghoulies 3 was kind of like...
Is that the one Matthew Lillard's in?
Yeah.
Is he just like a random character, or is he like one of the main characters?
He plays like a side character, but he doesn't have many lines.
Sad.
But... I know I've said this before, but I think like Matthew Lillard's greatest performances in Twin Peaks.
I'm excited. If I'm gonna be honest, like I love David Lynch.
Too much
I love David Lynch, but like Matthew Lillard's like one. I forgot. Have you seen SLC Punk yet?
No, I haven't. I need to. It's been on my watch list for a long time.
That's my favorite role from him. But I'm excited to watch. He's also really good in The Descendants, which is a movie about George Clooney in Hawaii, pretty much.
Like literally George Clooney in Hawaii, or like
I mean, he plays a character in Hawaii.
I was like, what? Is this like
and I think he's like supposed to be like 1/16th Hawaiian or something like really far down the line, and he's like getting land pretty much. His dad died or something like that. But it's a pretty good movie. But Matthew Lillard's a pretty small character, but he's really good. I think he's only in like 1 or 2 scenes.
Yeah, he's not in a whole lot of Twin Peaks. He's only like around for like a few episodes worth of material, but he's great in what he's in.
Powerful. Anyway, this movie, Bobby Peru eventually is really fucking almost sexually assaults Lula, but then finds out she's pregnant because she had thrown up, and he has an ad for that. Yeah. And then he's supposed to kill Nick Cage's character, so he takes him to a robbery pretty much and gives him a fake gun or a gun with blanks in it.
Yeah.
And they go in, he kills the 2 people, and he's like, you're next. Or actually, he just shoots the 2 people because both of them are alive.
Yeah.
One of them got their hand shot off, and then a dog runs off with it. And the other guy got shot like in the arm or something, but is okay. But he runs outside to get Nick Cage and then gets shot by this cop like 4 times and then falls over and shoots himself in the head and his head goes flying.
Yeah.
And then Nick Cage gets arrested for 6 years.
Dude, I was so nervous in the scene. I was expecting that cop just to be an asshole. I was like, all right, put your hands on your head. And then just like fucking lay into him right there.
The difference there.
Yeah.
Nick Cage is white.
Yeah, that probably helped his case a bit. But yeah, I was super nervous in that scene. I'm just like, oh god! I thought he was done for, but I'm glad he lived.
Yeah,
that was like the only thing I had like. There were 2 things I knew about this film going into it. I knew about like I had seen images with like him with the fucking like stocking on his head from the robbery scene.
Willem Dafoe looks so scary in that. I'm like, ah!
Like those prosthetic teeth in too, which just add to the eeriness. And then I knew about the little like Crispin Glover scene where it's the dude obsessed with Santa.
Oh yeah,
or Christmas.
Yeah. And then he goes away for 6 years. He comes out. He meets his son, and he sees Lula, but immediately he's like, "This isn't gonna work."
Yeah,
because I think he's also afraid. There's a lot to digest there. I think that scene I feel like is one of the more
Yeah. I feel like he's
dense scenes.
He feels responsible for causing her too much issues, and that she would probably.
He feels like they're not destined to be together.
Yeah.
But then he goes for a walk. He gets punched in the face by like a gang or like a group of guys.
I kind of both love and hate this part because he's like, oh, what do you faggots want? And then they like punch him in the face, and he gets up and he's like, I'm sorry I insinuated that you guys were homosexuals. I'm like, that wasn't the problem with that statement.
Well, I think that fits with his character pretty well. I'm sorry for insinuating you gentlemen were homosexual.
Yeah, but
then he's like had an epiphany. He had like literally a vision.
Witch.
So then he runs after her, and she's stuck in traffic or something, and he sings.
And he sings
"Love Me Tender." And then as he's doing that, it cuts to her mother, who like disappears and fades like she's the bad witch.
Earlier she had tossed a glass of water on a photo of her, and then we get the like smoke like she's melting.
And then credits roll. Yeah. They're holding each other. Yeah. And like I said, I've seen this movie before. I really, really like this movie. I think it's very fun. I think it's goofy at times, but it handles a lot of the same themes that Lynch wants to do. And I think it's a really cool exploration of like American folklore, like I said. And it's like a better Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Because I don't like Wizard of Oz. And I don't remember if like it's good or not, because I haven't rewatched in so long, because I just refuse. Yeah, I just kind of refuse to, because I don't like watching movies.
I think it's been a while since I've seen it. Like, I like Wizard of Oz, like the property, the movie. I think it's like a decent spectacle. Like, I think it's like neat to see all this stuff, and especially like given like the time period. Yeah, because it's like, oh, this is cool. It came out in the 1920s, but knowing the risks that they had to put the actors through, and just the dark history of the making of that movie, whether it's giving fucking not Eliza Minnelli, her mother. What's her name? What is her name? The name of the Dorothy.
Judy Garland?
Judy Garland. Like giving her pep pills behind the scenes and all of like
everyone harassing her except for
the Wicked Witch,
who was like the only kind person.
And then the Wicked Witch getting her legs burnt on like hot iron during the broom scenes. Shit like that.
Yeah, so it's just like, I just don't really want to watch it.
Hey, at least a munchkin didn't really hang itself. It was a crane.
Yeah. When I first heard that story, I'm like, that's fucking bullshit.
That's clearly a bird.
There are so many like movie conspiracy theories like that.
3 Men and a Baby and the Ghost. And you like look and it's a piece of cardboard in the window. And it's like, did they just like... God.
Conspiracy theories are so stupid because people will just believe it. Like, the people that are really into conspiracy theories will believe any shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that some conspiracy theories don't have merit.
Oh, no.
But, you just say shit. Like,
no, there needs to be, like, some level of credibility and, some
sort of evidence.
Yeah, and
even if it's substantial.
It can't be, like, cherry-picked evidence. I don't want to, like, look into it and be like, watch a video where I'm like, oh wow, this makes sense, and then I look into it and I'm like, oh wait, no, here are like 13 things that could debunk this one thing. But anyway, Loud at Heart's good. I would give it an 8 out of 10.
I would give it a 9. Personally, I think this is one of Nick Cage's best roles. I think he's phenomenal in it. I do think Laura Dern's also very good in this, but the spectacle is really on Cage this time. Yeah,
no, she doesn't have... I mean, she has stuff to her character.
Yeah, like, but it's... I feel like this is more the journey of Cage.
For sure. Yeah.
Time for Lost Highway.
Lost Highway.
What'd you think of this guy?
This guy?
Yeah, this guy. Lost Highway. This guy. This movie.
I overall... Like, I didn't dislike it. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely like not one of my favorites. I think I kind of saw the curvature of this movie just because I am pretty familiar with like Lynch's work, and it feels like he was kind of like going for like a proto Mulholland Drive kind of thing with it. And I think that movie does this kind of thing much better.
I do. It's interesting because I ended up really liking this movie, but I didn't like it nearly as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that... So what's interesting about this, I was actually reading some stuff about this philosopher that I know, Slavoj Zizek. He's a Slovenian philosopher, and he talks a lot about movies and cultural impact of movies and certain things. And he talked about Lost Highway and about how, like, it's talking about this constant nightmare that the main character's in. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have referred to the theme, not the theme, the plot of the film, the storytelling is a Mobius strip. Like, it's just constant. Like, it never ends. Mm. And I like the storytelling device in this movie quite a bit. I like the idea that the second person, Pete, doesn't really exist. Yeah. And it's just Pullman's, like, escape from reality, but it always will devolve into that same nightmare that he caused, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that's really interesting. I just unfortunately think that the second, like, Pete as a character is really fucking boring.
Yeah.
And I don't really like it. I think that Bill Pullman in this is really good.
Yeah.
I really like Pullman in this. And I really like certain scenes. But I think the second half, or at least, like, the vast majority of the second half, pales in comparison to the first.
Yeah.
At least personally.
Yeah, no, I definitely found myself pretty intrigued with, like, the initial setup of this movie. You know, Bill Pullman lives with his wife, who's played by
Patricia Arquette.
Yeah,
and I also didn't think she was.
I'm usually not a huge fan of her.
I think she's been in things that I've liked, and I like her, but I don't think she did very good in this movie. She's in Boyhood. I really like her in Boyhood.
Yeah, I haven't seen Boyhood, so maybe
I really like her in Ed Wood. She does.
She is in it. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Like, there are movies that I think she's really good in.
The main thing I remember her from is Mallrats.
What?
The main thing I remember her from is Mallrats. She plays Jeremy. I think Jeremy's the name of the actor. I think, like, TD is the name of the character, but she plays his girlfriend that breaks up with him at the beginning of the movie, and the whole movie he's like,
Are you sure?
She plays what the fuck is that one guy's name? The guy who plays, like, you know, I may not be your father, or he may be your father, but he ain't your daddy. I can't think of the actor's name.
I'm looking at the cast list and I can't find her. I might be thinking of someone else.
Maybe I am. I swear it's her, though. Let me look up Mallrats.
Are you okay? Yeah. Anyway, so the main story of this movie, he's living with his wife, and they keep getting these videotapes of inside their house, and he keeps having these visions. Like, he's having nightmares a lot. They're getting false alarms on their.
I guess.
Thinking of someone else?
I'm getting her mixed up with Claire Forlani.
I saw her and I'm like, at that time, I bet that's the girl.
Yeah. If you would have pointed a gun at my head and asked me if they were the same person, I would have said yes with confidence. Whoops. Anyway.
It's okay. I think that I get Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton mixed up with all the time.
Just their names? Or?
I mean, even their, I think their facial structure is kind of similar. I also, Kurt Russell and Jeff Bridges used to do it all the time. I don't do it as much anymore, but all the time when I was
a little kid, I always got Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon mixed up, and I remember one time I saw a piece of The Departed on TV, and I was so confused. I was like, what? These two? What? They can't be in the same movie. They look too much alike. Leo in that,
or is it Mark Wahlberg?
Mark Wahlberg is...
I thought it was Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg were the ones there. But I think those two... I think Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt...
Spoiler alert.
Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg all kind of look similar. Especially when they have the same haircut. You don't gotta spoil it. I remember now.
Okay. But Leonardo plays the main guy. Mark Wahlberg is in it, but he plays, like, a smaller part.
Yeah. I love Mark Wahlberg. Wait, no I don't. We've talked about this before.
It's like, all right, you have to pick. You either love Mark Wahlberg or Vietnamese people.
I'd probably go with Vietnamese people. But yeah, so Lost Highway, he eventually is convicted of killing his wife. Like suddenly he has a vision where he's like, can't find his wife, and then suddenly he's like in handcuffs being beaten by a cop.
Yeah, he's getting
these visions of these tapes, and then he meets this guy. I think he's just known as the Mystery Man or like Unknown Man or something like that.
Yeah,
Mystery Man.
This character visually reminds me a lot of Death from The Seventh Seal.
I thought you were going to say Death from Bill and Ted, which I was going to go, I agree.
Well,
Death from Bill. But that's really funny because that idea, because I saw Bill and Ted when I was a kid, when I think of that design for Death, I immediately go to Bill and Ted instead of that.
Yeah.
Did you see the trailer for the new Bill and Ted?
I don't know if I saw the full trailer, but I saw a teaser.
Still haven't seen the second movie for that.
I have. What do you mean? That's the one where Death is introduced.
I mean, I've seen him, but I never saw the movie.
I see. Yeah, I saw it once. I've seen the first one a few times, but I've only seen the sequel once. But I remember it being pretty alright. I plan on rewatching through both of them probably right as the third one comes out. Because if I do it now, I'm just gonna be like, meh. But yes, so.
But eventually, once that happens, he goes to jail for a day or two. It's not very long before he starts having those visions again, and then a bright light, and suddenly there's this vision, and this part's really silly. This vision of Pete and his family and stuff. I think the shot looks really dumb.
There's a couple really funny dumb shots. There's a scene earlier in the movie where Bill Pullman's in bed with his wife, and he's basically kind of he's describing this dream that he had. He was I had this dream where I saw you were in bed, but it wasn't really you, and her face is I'm scared.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it's just someone just pasted on, and I'm like, why didn't they just put someone in a wig? What?
Yeah, it's
and I like it in the sense that I think it's really silly,
David
but
Lynch,
I feel
in Twin Peaks, you're going to see stuff that's kind of a similar kin. And I like it because it's so funny and goofy that it's almost reaches this level of uncanny valley type horror.
Yeah, but it's but I think that there are other parts in the first half of this movie that are legitimately unsettling. I think this is probably one of the scarier Lynch films in the first half. There's some parts that are really unsettling.
Yeah.
And there's some shots that build up there's going to be a jump scare or something. So that part, I just felt it was the wrong tonally.
Yeah.
But the second half, he pretty much transforms into Pete, but he doesn't remember anything.
One scene I thought was so dumb was the scene where he comes up to him at the party and he's like, we've met before. He's like, where? He's like, your house. And he's like, well, what?
And then he calls him on the phone and he's talking
and I would be I like how he's just I believe you. And it's okay, first of all, he handed you his phone. That's his phone. He could have just programmed it to have ring out to whatever number, despite the number you dial into it. He's dial your house phone number and I'll pick up and I'll be there.
I think once you've seen the movie and you realize that a lot of this is just in his head in general.
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily makes... I like the scene fine, but I was kind of... From the very beginning, I was kind of under the assumption that almost the entire movie's going to be in his head. He's just going insane, which he is. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind that scene. I thought it was pretty fun, but I get it as well.
Yeah. It's come on, man. Don't...
Yeah, what are you doing?
You're gonna get tricked real bad one of these days.
But one scene I do like in the Pete half of the movie is I do like the part with the tailgater.
Oh yeah.
Dick Laurent.
That was riding my ass the entire way here. Side story. So I was driving on the back roads on the way here. I had an Arby's sandwich that I was driving. I was paying attention, but I take
Did you get pulled over?
No, but I take one bite out of my sandwich and I look in my mirror for a second. I see this cop just right up on my ass. So I have so I set the sandwich on my lap because I don't want to put it on the seat. So I'm just driving. He's on my ass like the entire way here, pretty much. Minus like up until the point where I have to get on the freeway, which is like exit or the Tumwater area.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, please don't pull me over. Because he would just see like a roast beef sandwich on my lap and just be like, what are you doing, dude?
And then you could have just gone, you ever get horny on the road?
Close enough. Anyway.
I was just getting really excited for David Lynch. But there's a part where he's with Dick Laurent, who's kind of he's like an antagonist for the movie. Like
the opening line of the movie is there's like
Dick Laurent is dead or something like that.
Yeah, someone like hits his like door buzzer and it's like, Dick Laurent is dead, and he's like, what? Who was there? And he looks outside and no one's there. Like,
yeah.
Oh, what the fuck?
And that'll be the ending of the movie. He does the same thing and then he gets chased by the cops.
Yeah.
But this Dick Laurent guy, they're just driving nicely, and then eventually a guy starts tailgating them, so he lets him pass, and then he, like, drives him off the road and, like, threatens to kill him. Yeah. He's like, don't ever fucking tailgate again. I just thought it was funny. Like, it was another over-the-top villain.
And the thing I like about it is that it's not, like, just funny for the sake of being funny or out of nowhere. Like, it's meant to kind of, like, establish this character is not a character you really want to fuck with.
Yeah.
And that becomes relevant to, Pete? Is that his name?
Yeah, Pete, I believe. Patricia Arquette, the first wife, had died, but now...
Is she related to David Arquette? I guess I could have looked that up, but...
No, keep talking, I'll do this.
Yeah, so, basically, yeah, so he...
she was married to Nicolas Cage for 6 years. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, shit. Yeah, she's David Arquette's brother, I believe.
Really? Mm-hmm. She's David Arquette's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Wait, you know what I was saying. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah, so,
I hate you.
Basically, yeah, so he meets, this woman who looks exactly like the wife from the first half, except she's blonde.
And her name is Alice Whitaker or something like that.
Yeah. And basically, yeah, so she...
Wakefield, my bad.
Oh, shit. So she basically kind of, like, comes back later when she's not with the fucking psychopath guy who ran that tailgater off the road. But she basically comes back and she's like, hey, let's go get dinner. And Pete initially is like, I saw who you were with earlier, and I don't think that's a good idea. She's like, okay, I'll go call a cab.
And then he's like, never mind, I'm horny.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of sex in this movie.
There is.
There's a decent amount in Blue Velvet as well.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny, we didn't even mention, like, a lot of that movie is about, like, sexual awakening and sexual repression and using sex as a coping mechanism.
I find it funny. I think it was Ebert made like a comment about like the sexualization of Blue Velvet and the female lead of the movie who isn't Laura Dern. I don't know the actor's name. She basically told him to go fuck himself. She was like, fuck off.
From her acting, I feel like that's the type of person she would be.
Yeah. And she's also in Wild at Heart too. She plays this person that basically made a deal with Nicolas Cage back in the day where if they got like a hit put on their head, they would let each other know, but she doesn't, because she ends up being in cahoots with Willem Dafoe's character.
His birth name is William. He just goes by Willem.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure his real name is William Dafoe.
Well, that's some big dick energy right there. I'm just going to remove part of my name.
Yeah, his name is William James Dafoe. He just goes by Willem.
Good for him. Anyway, so...
Well, it's the same thing with Nicolas Cage. Like, that was a pretty big dick move he did because his name was Nicholas Coppola, but he's like, nope, I want to make it on my own, so I'm changing...
I feel like that one makes a little bit more sense. I feel like William was just like, William Dafoe doesn't sound right.
But speaking of, it's kind of the same thing about not wanting to use your clout. John David Washington. I was reading an article about how when he was trying to get things originally, he would just be like, he would lie about who his dad was. He'd be like, he's a construction worker because he didn't want to make it on his own dad's stuff.
Yeah, for the longest time, I had no idea.
It's funny because I think they sound very similar.
I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think Black Klansman, I think I've seen him in some other stuff now, but...
He's not in a ton, but...
Yeah. I want to see...
He's in Tenet.
Yeah, I want to see Tenet when that eventually comes around. I'm going to have to watch it on my cell phone, but...
Apple Watch, we talked about how
also,
Nolan wanted.
And whenever that movie he did with Zendaya comes out, I'll watch that probably.
Oh, yeah.
That seemed pretty neat. But yeah, let's see. Basically, so he gets romantically involved with
and then
Patricia Arquette's character.
And for a moment, it feels like he's in a happy place.
Yeah.
And then that fantasy he's in starts to devolve.
Yeah. There's always like a crumb of uncertainty. We know something happened in his past, but the parent, like, no one will tell him what it was. They'll be like, oh man, what happened to your head? Are you okay? And he's like, what happened to me? Anyone want to fill me in? And everyone's like, no, we shouldn't. And it's basically just like alluding to, Bill Pullman's character murdering his wife, but they don't want to break the illusion quite yet. So eventually it gets to a point where she's like, oh no, my, Mr. whatever, the big bad guy who tailgate kills whatever. That guy, he's suspicious. He's onto us. We gotta basically rob one of his friends and we gotta flee and go somewhere else where we can be in love together. And of course, the fool he is, he's like, oh yeah, this is gonna work out. This is gonna go great.
But instead he ends up killing the guy they rob. And
she ends up... Basically, she doesn't betray him in the scene, but she heavily alludes to the fact that it's like, hey, I'm gonna... Like, this is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Like, there's a...
And then they drive out to the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
They fuck again.
And then during this scene, she basically, like, as soon
you
as
will
they
never have me or something like that.
Yeah, and then he snaps, comes to the realization of who he is, and...
Yeah, first he looks over, he sees the mystery man again. Or she goes into the shed that he had seen blow up a couple times in the movie. Then she walks over, he sees the mystery man, who walks in as well. Then he snaps, he's Bill Pullman again.
Yeah.
Bill Pullman looks good in that leather jacket.
He does.
He walks in and she's gone.
Yeah.
And
he's like, where is... I can't remember her fake name, but he's like, that wasn't
Where's
it.
Alice? What? You thought she was saying... She was lying.
Yeah, that's not her name. If she said that, she was lying. And he basically just has the camera in his face, and they end up...
he, drives out. He tries to escape from it. He runs away at first, but then he sees Dick Laurent fucking his wife, like his original wife.
Yeah. And
he's like, what? So he kidnaps him and murders him.
Yeah. They both go out and assassinate him. Obviously, it's Bill Pullman who does it, but the
Mystery Man is there, which is just another version of Bill Pullman, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's just an extension of his psyche.
Yeah. And then he goes and says Dick Laurent is dead, and then he gets chased by the cops, and he starts convulsing at the end of the movie, I think to imply that there would be another transformation, and he's stuck in an endless cycle of madness.
See, I figured the whole time he was still in jail.
Well, yeah, I think that's part of his fantasy. I think that he's not even in jail and he's dead.
Yeah,
and he's stuck in purgatory,
I figured the ending, because it kind of reminded me of Electricity.
Yeah.
Might have just been David Lynch flicking some lights and going, yes, I like this.
There's some really cool visuals on his face that happen
his face is starting to blow up, which makes me think he was being fried or something on the electric chair, maybe, but who knows.
But I do really like this movie. I just wish that I liked the second half more before the climax. I like the climax a lot. Pretty much as soon as they go out to the desert.
Yeah.
But just the beginning. And I like the very beginning of the Pete stuff because I was with the tailgater. But the rest I just thought wasn't super great. And I didn't like Patricia Arquette in this. And the guy who played Pete, I can't remember his name. Yeah. I didn't really like him either.
He reminded me a lot of... I can't remember the guy's name. The dude from that 70s show who came out recently was a rapist.
Well, that's been a thing for...
I found out about it recently. But
Danny
Masterson? Yeah. Kind of reminded me of that guy. So I was kind of initial disgust because I found out about that like within the last few months, and I was like, oh, gross.
How long did he go? Is he going to be in jail forever now? Hopefully.
Probably not. He's a celebrity.
Oh, he hasn't been convicted yet. Like he's... If he does, he faces up to 45 years in prison. Hopefully hopefully it's that 45 years in prison.
Yeah, fuck
that guy.
Yeah.
But this movie's pretty good. And I'm sure that guy, I'm sure that guy is not a rapist.
Yeah, no, not the guy in the movie, but the guy who he reminds me of, Danny Masterson.
Yeah.
Hide from that 70s
Balthazar Getty, who I haven't seen in anything else. Oh, apparently he's Ralph in the Lord of the Flies movie from 1990.
The only Lord of the Flies movie I've seen is like the old one.
I think I've seen both. What would you give this movie? I would give it a 7. I did really enjoy it. The first part I was really intrigued, and then it lost me.
I would probably also give this a 7. I was thinking between a 7 and an 8.
Okay. And the final one we're talking about today, Inland Empire, or as I like to call it, this movie's secretly 9 hours. So...
It feels like a...
Laura Dern is the main character in this, and I think she's really good at times, which is sad. Like, this is her movie. Like, this is the movie where she's the main character, and I'm like, why is this movie not as good as the other ones? But there are parts, I don't know, maybe the second watch. It's like, I feel like I'd enjoy it more on a second watch, maybe, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. Because I don't think this movie should be 3 hours. There are a lot of movies that I'm fine with being 3 hours. But this movie, I'm just like, no.
Yeah, it's a little...
I feel like this could have been like 2 hours.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't even know where it's like... Oh, man, it's just so long. It's like 1 hour of cohesiveness, and then they just like unravels in the 2 hours
first part of this movie, which is like, I'm pretty sure intentionally shot really badly.
Oh, like the stuff with
with the super close-ups. It reminded me of Bamboozled.
Yeah, no, a lot of this movie's presentation reminded me of Bamboozled.
Which I liked in that, but I don't think that lasted as long either. Yeah. And, but this one, so Laura Dern plays an actress, but then she plays a non-actress. It like jumps around, and it's kind of the same thing of struggling with madness. You're not really sure what's real or not.
Yeah.
She's an actress in this movie that's based on this movie that was never released called, I think, 47.
Yeah,
where the 2 leads were murdered.
Yeah.
And they're worried because I think that partly they think it's haunted because they're like, there's somebody over there, and then it turns out to be Laura Dern.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of like, I feel like this movie just recycles a lot of the same stuff that, like, there's a bit in each of his other movies that's in this movie.
Yeah, and he does like similar like recycling in like Twin Peaks, but I feel like
does he do it better?
Yeah, no, he masters it in there. It's
like it's fine if he wants to do that, but I feel like you need to try to improve on it, and I don't think any of the instances of recycling this were improved upon, and I think that's my main issue with this movie. It's 3 hours of ideas that I think could work. And I like the central theme. I like that central theme that he does a lot where it's a character struggling in madness on like what's real and what's reality and what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I like the story of her like battling with, is this a real movie or not? Because I like movies like that. Mm-hmm. But I just think that a lot of the other characters are really boring.
Yeah.
Or just static, like very like little to do with anything except moving pieces around. The only real character like at all for me was Laura Dern. And there are a lot of random people that will just say like a story or something, which I think is lifted from a lot of his other works.
Yeah.
But it reminded me a lot of like the random stories in Wild at Heart. But it's just like, I wanted to like this movie, and I do think I liked the movie. but it was definitely the weakest, like, full-length David Lynch movie. In my memory, I don't remember Dune.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I would enjoy this movie being somewhat clearer on what happens in it.
Like, I'm pretty sure I get it.
Yeah, I think I get the general strokes of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I have as solid of a grasp on this movie as I do with some of his other movies.
Yeah.
Just
and I don't even think
for the first time.
I don't even think that that has to do with like how, like, I think that just has to do with how focused I was on the movie. I just think that the movie was failing to grasp my attention, because I think if I could pay more attention, like, it was better. I think the pacing in this movie is really bad.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Lynch. I think, which is sad because I think most of his other movies have really good pacing. Like, I think that a lot of his 2-hour movies feel longer, but not in a bad way. Like, I don't think a movie feeling longer is necessarily a bad thing. It just feels like they're dense. This movie, I feel like it's 3 hours and it just feels devoid of a lot of things.
Yeah. Because with a lot of David Lynch's work, ever since, like, watching Twin Peaks: The Return, I feel like with most of his movies, you can kind of, like, cut them up into pieces if you wanted to. Like, they very much feel like you, like...
Yeah, they're very
2-hour
clear...
movie, you can, like, chop it up in, like, little
segments,
bits, yeah. And it feels cohesive that way, and it kind of helps refresh the pace. But this movie, it's like, things will kind of drag on for a long time. There will be, like, long chunks of time where it's like, you're not really, at least I wasn't really sure what was going on a lot of the time. Like, just...
I think one of the big things with this movie is there's a quote by David Lynch about this movie, because he notoriously doesn't want to explain this movie, which is fine. I think that's a good thing. I think, like, more than anything, he wants the viewer to decide what it's about for them, which is good. Like, even though I think that a lot of his movies have pretty clear cut things if you're paying attention. Like, I think Mulholland Drive, there are pretty a couple obvious theories that you can go with, but it's like one of those 3 theories, you know? It's like, but this one, it's, we are like the spider, we weave our life and then move along it. We are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives in the dream. This is true for the entire universe. So I think that mostly this movie's just about, it's not even about Laura Dern, because we see the first woman who is crying. She's crying, but then we see her reunited with her husband, and it's just about her living her dream vicariously through what she wanted to be all her life, who was Laura Dern as an actress. I think that's what I got from it, at least. So Laura Dern, so you have the main character, who's I can't remember her name, woman in the hotel room. She makes up Laura Dern in her mind, and then even in that, she's still, like, penniless and stuff, and she has her own dream. So there are, like, levels of dreams in this, like Inception.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's definitely, like, kind of like, when Laura Dern is on screen, there's, like, kind of like...
And there are 2 different Laura Derns. There's Laura Dern as the person, Laura Dern as the actress. And the one thing I do like is I do like the more bamboozled areas, like the shots that remind me of that, because they feel so manufactured and fake. I think that helps the illusions to how this is all someone's dream, and this is someone's dream who's, like, really inexperienced with being, like, rich or famous or, like, an actress. So everyone feels really bad. And I think that was purposeful. Like, Justin Theroux and her acting, like, when they're together in the movie, within the movie, they suck, in my opinion. But I think that was intentional. So I think it was good.
Yeah.
But
you're going to be working on this great script, you know.
And you could argue that Laura Dern's character is real, because she shows up again triumphantly at the very end, right after the woman is reunited with her kid and her husband. But I think that that's just her inner psyche still. Like, you have different personalities. Like, that's her personality that protects her. Like, that's the one that's in her dream. That's the ideal person she would like to be. So that's just in her head. She's triumphant. She lived her dream correctly because she survived and she got reunited with her husband. So everyone in the story. This is actually, I think this movie does have a happy ending, comparatively.
Yeah.
it's just weird because a lot of people won't get it, which is fine too. I think that this may be one of David Lynch's more challenging films, like for the audience, which I don't think is a bad thing. But unfortunately, I think it's challenging because the pacing is bad.
Yeah.
I think most people would get this, or at least have theories of their own, if they could handle if the pacing was better. It just doesn't feel like a cohesive product.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also, I think, somewhat intentional. I think that it wants to feel disjointed, but you can make something feel disjointed without making it feel boring. Yeah. And there are parts in this movie that are boring. And I keep talking. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, no, like, I don't know, it was just, it didn't itch the scratch, the David Lynch scratch that I like. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel like the acting is noticeably worse in this movie, typically, than it is in his, like, other movies. And there's always, like, a layer of, like, cheese on the acting in David Lynch's movies. There's always, like, this self-aware layer of, like, yes, the dialogue
besides, like, Elephant Man.
Yeah, besides, like, Elephant Man. Like, the typical David Lynch movie.
Yeah.
Where, you know, they're talking with a bit of cheese on top, you know, they're very animated, you know. It's, David Lynch likes to go for this kind of, like, timeless, but, like, anywhere between, like, fucking 2015 to, like, 1950. Like, his films could take place at, like, any time period. You never can tell because of how characters are dressed and how they talk. And it's just, like, with this film, I feel like a lot of the acting, even in the scenes that weren't like, oh, we're acting in a movie, where it's just like Laura Dern sitting in like that set house with all of those like, they were all supposed to be like prostitutes, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Or exotic dancers or something similar.
Like I thought most of them were pretty.
Yeah, I think, which is sad because I think that Laura Dern does have some really good moments in this movie. But most of the supporting cast is pretty bad.
Yeah. And it's like, oh man. And there's some decent actors. Like, you got Terry Crews in the movie, but he's in one scene and has, like, what? One line of dialogue?
Same thing with Lynch. And I think he delivers that line really well. Like, I'm like, I was really excited when I saw him. I'm like, this is going to be a good character. And then he doesn't show up again. I'm like, fuck.
Yes, goddammit. You got him for one day.
He's like, yeah. David Lynch calls him up. He's like, I got like 20 minutes to spare. Yeah. You want to be in my movie? He's like, I got like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be in a David Lynch movie, and then he didn't realize.
I would love for him to be in another one, though. Yeah. Because, like, he's worked with, he was in, like, Paul Thomas Anderson stuff. And I really like William H. Macy as an actor. I think he's really good.
He's a great actor.
It's just, like I said, it fails to live up to its own ideas. Yeah, I think, which is
I think it's a little too ambitious.
And I don't know. Like, I do want to eventually rewatch this.
So do I.
But it's just like, why has it got to be 3 hours?
Yeah, I'll probably rewatch it in the future, like next time I'm going on like a big David Lynch binge.
I'll probably do it after I watch Twin Peaks.
It's probably fair. Maybe you'll appreciate it more afterwards.
Yeah, like, and I appreciate parts of it. And like I said, I still think that I enjoyed it overall. Like, because there are enough things that I did like about it.
One of the things I did like about this movie, just to throw some positives in there, the scenes with, like, Laura Dern when she's meant to be, like, scary, very effective. I'm terrified of her in those scenes. Like, the scene where she's, like, running out of the dark woods and she's just like, and it's just like, oh!
There's a scene in the last act where it, like, it distorts her face. It looks like a creepypasta image. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is that, Mr. Lynch?
I forgot about that bit.
I, like, just started laughing. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Which reminded me of that scene in Lost Highway, but even more. I'm like, what the fuck is... Because I think before that, she was just like... And I was better.
Yeah.
And then she's like... I'm like, am I looking at a Salvador Dali painting?
Yeah.
I also really like some of the soundtrack in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the last song before the credits, where, like, she's being reunited and stuff. I really like that song.
God, I wonder why they chose, like, Centerman for the ending credits. Like, that was...
And I wasn't expecting... David Lynch did most of the stuff himself in this movie, which he hadn't really done for a while.
Some of the sound... Like, usually I love David Lynch's sound mixing. This movie, there was a literal scene where my headphones just switched over to one side for like one shot.
There was a scene where she was like, she said like the word "bam," but he like put up the amplification like all the way, so it went BAM. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Oh man, and there was like most of the movie is pretty quiet. Like there's just like people talking, and then it's like, oh yeah, so I gotta crank that volume up, and then it gets to a scene where it's like creepy music plays, and it's just like, oh god, my ears. It's like, oh, but let me try to think of like some more positives. Like I like the initial concept that the movie presents of like the cursed script.
Yeah,
like
that was I kind of wish it was more straightforward because I think that is an interesting
David
idea.
Lynch always like I'm not too mad at it, but whenever he does, like I feel the same way about Mulholland Drive when it's like the director and he's like, you have to pick this actress, and he like locks eyes with like Naomi Watts' character, and it's like, oh, he's gonna pick her character. This is the route this movie's gonna go. He's gonna like betray the producers, and it's like that seems super interesting, but then it goes a completely different fucking direction. It's just
divert.
Like, man, this could have been
subverting your expectations.
It's like, oh man, this could have been like a good movie of its own, just with that concept. But I feel of a similar vein of like this story. Similarly, both threads that I like involve Justin Theroux.
Yeah.
But maybe he just sees that actor and he's like
we gotta do something weird.
Yeah, he usually has the straightforward script.
Let's get funky.
He's like, all right, I can't. I gotta take this guy some wild places. Even though his character doesn't really go anywhere wild in the movie. There's like that one scene later where he goes and he like visits him with his wife. She's like, come on, don't you remember? Don't you love? I love you. And then his wife's like, I'm gonna stab you with a screwdriver. Oh man, that initial scene where they're in like the fucking like police office, and she's like, I think I've been hypnotized. I'm gonna stab someone with a screwdriver, and she like lifts it up and she stabbed herself with the screwdriver, which I think is obviously what happens later in the movie.
Yeah,
when she takes the screwdriver from Laura Dern and stabs Laura Dern. Laura Dern is her.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I thought that scene was so awful. Like, it's like right up on that cop's face. And
it did like that so much. And I thought it was like funny because, and I know like that's the same thing. I think that part was intentional, but I think it was a little overbearing. I think most of the time it's like the bad pacing is each segment overstays its welcome, I think. Yeah. That's why I think this movie would work as a 2-hour film, maybe.
Yeah.
Cutting down each, like, act by, like, 20 minutes.
For sure.
But I would still, I think I would still give this movie a 6. I do like parts of it. I do think that I enjoyed my time, even if it was painfully slow.
I'm going to give it a 5 for now.
Whoa.
Might raise in the future.
I'm going to call him up. I'm going to call Mr. Lynch up. Okay. So, what was your... here's what I thought. Elephant Man Atop. Okay. Wild at Heart. Blue Velvet. Lost Highway. Inland Empire. For you.
You're close. And that's exactly what I guessed for you.
That is correct for me.
Okay. I would switch Blue Velvet and Lost Highway. I like Blue Velvet just a smidge more than Lost Highway. Or, not Lost Highway. Wild at Heart, I mean.
So you're switching Wild at Heart and Blue Velvet?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Who knows, maybe in the future I might come to enjoy watching Wild at Heart more. But for the time being, I have more of a soft spot for Blue Velvet since I'm a little more familiar with the movie.
Cool. Well, another director deep dive in the bag. In the basket. Hoop to shoop. Yeah. And next week, we're going to be watching Spider-Man Unlimited.
Yes.
Which was a 1999 series. Yeah. And it's only 13 episodes. And Pierre will be joining us.
It's going to be epic.
It's going to be epic.
Assuming I record here again. It's going to be the first time I meet Pierre.
We're going to walk over and meet him right now. So, thanks for watching. Tell your grandma, subscribe, all that shit. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Adios.